We are the country with the highest unemployment rate in the world, at 32.4%, as per Ndatere Sani Leka's Q4 statistics. It is so bad that we try and hide it. We've got two measurements of it. Like we did in apartheid, we had two forms of the rent. One we call the commercial rent, the other one the financial rent, so that if one doesn't favor us, we can quote the one that favors us. But let's stay with 32.4% on a narrow definition, because it excludes people that have stopped looking for work in the last 36 months. With 750 days of national lockdown, how could anybody have continued to look for? Of course they'll give up. In the province of Gauteng alone, there's 800 young people that have completed their studies, called doctors, clinicians, MBBCH, but unemployed. Most of them come from Limpopo. The families had to sell the 15 cows to send them to school, because they are not the family's second chance, but the family's last hope. Now they're sitting at home suffering from mental health issues and period poverty. Thirdly, this unemployment rate on an expanded level for us is 42%. But let's stay 32%, a round of figures, because I'm amongst family. It is worse than unemployment rate of countries at war. During the Arab Spring, this phenomenon that started in Tunisia with the self-immolation that deposed 5 sitting presidents, including Hosni Mubarak of Egypt after 33 years in power. It had half the unemployment rate that we have. The 2 weeks in July of 2021 that saw 10 malls being banned, 12 factories, 140 ATMs looted, 100 million stolen and disappeared into ether. Lost 30 billion just in the province of KwaZulu-Natal, spilled over to Gauteng, where we lost another 20 billion. Total of 50 billion just in 8 days. When it happened, our unemployment rate was 74.9%. That's 8 out of 10 young people sitting at home, twiddling their thumbs with nothing to do. If you and I don't do something as a result of our conversation this afternoon, not only are we asking for trouble, we are actively inviting it. With a country with the highest SME failure rate in the world as an acronym for small, medium, and enterprises, we chose to be members of BRICS, now BRICS Plus. New jobs created by SMEs is north of 60 percentage points, except here, where it's south of 15 percentage points. It takes 2 hours to start a new business in Singapore. It takes 36 months here to start a new business at a cost of 350,000 later, trying to comply with all CIPC requirements. In Singapore, they've used the 350,000 to buy goods that they start selling. We're still trying to comply. With a country that has the highest GBVF rate in the world, not by a factor of 2, but 5 times the global average, to demonstrate beyond any shadow of doubt that we haven't even started dealing with our collective trauma of 400 years of colonialism, 98 years of separate development, 48 years of institutionalized apartheid. You see, when your own brain is inflamed, how can you laugh? So what needs to be done? Because this is a local government elective year. In another 2 years, we'll be electing national leaders that should take us to our own nirvana. And maybe like we do in business, instead of starting with electing people on the first hour of an elective conference, what if we started by doing what it actually says? It's called a policy conference. agree policies, and thereafter we look around and say, who amongst us is best positioned to deliver these policies? So in business, we call that strategy. And we say, structure follows strategy. Let me submit only 6. Because of their simplicity, even I can remember them. What if we started with rooting out and defeating state capture? Because in the first 5 years of state capture, we stole 1.5 trillion South African rands. This is 2/3 of what Edward Kieswetter collects every year on average from companies and you and I. We stole it in 5 years. It's called the political economy because it doesn't matter what we do in business. Politics have a disproportionate influence and impact on what we do. If the politics is fraught, the country is fraught. That's why we must root out and defeat state capture, because this has been industrial scale looting. In the 9 wasted years, we siphoned off on average 200 billion per annum just to the 2 Zutda families. Meant to digress a little bit. So during COVID, AfriForum and Solidarity built a technical for 300 million rand. It's standing for the next 300 years. They'll show it to their grandchildren because that's what we did with the privilege that we're gifted with. The same week in Gauteng, we fumigated schools for 450 million that were closed, and we have nothing to show for it. You see, when you steal money, eventually it gets finished. And it manifests with failed infrastructure. Water is the new Eskom. But even Eskom, all we were trying to solve for 17 years, this thing called load shedding, was a 6 gigawatt gap. That's all it was, 6 gigawatt. Because this institution that was built by Van der Bijl, and he built 3. He built Eskom, he built IDC, he built Ishkor. 56 gigawatt nameplate electricity. By the time we became free, it was 42 gigawatts. So we decided to close this 6 gigawatt gap. Because at peak, which is mostly in the evening, the country needs 32 gigawatts of electricity. At the very best, we're not providing 27. 6 gigawatts, that's all we're trying to solve. So we decided to build Middleby and Kusile, and I leave Ingula, which is hydroelectric power. The cost was 160 billion. We should have finished in 2016. We spent double that at 300 billion. In 2016, we're not at 50% of the capacity. Middleby alone was supposed to give us 9.6 gigawatt. Problem solved. Ingula alone was supposed to give us 9.6 gigawatt. That's double what we need. That's 20 gigawatts if I round it off. But for 17 years, for 6 gigawatts, we couldn't stop the bleeding. If I had time, I would tell you that we had an opportunity to put the biggest order in the world of 1,092 locomotives in Transnet. In the world. It was going to cost us 32 billion. That's what we presented to the Transnet board. And they said, but it's expensive. I said, no, it includes everything. The time cost of money, including the kitchen sink. At the end of that period, we had already paid 52 billion. Our people still don't have trains that work. If you go to the Western Cape, the Central Line, people have built shacks on that. Here in this province, every year, Kapaseka, people come to Moria. The N1 is full, but the train line is onto the left. If we had left the train line working, even some of the goods and services have been used by the trains, because one train takes out 130 trucks. But no, we're not going to do that, because the people who own the trucks are the politicians. So in Mpumalanga, the people who don't like us, the National Party, they dug a mine here and they built a coal-fired power station and a belt to move the coal. So we came, we cut the belt, because no, we've got trucks, remember. So we must take this coal here and drive the round way round to deliver it here, so that it's our turn to eat too. I didn't want to unpack it, but that's why we need to stop, root out and defeat state capture, because it doesn't matter what we do. We might as well pack and go. If I had time, I would also tell you that state capture, we didn't invent it, but it rests on 4 legs, and it's only when you understand those 4 legs that you can comprehend that you have to love your people to lead them. Number 1 of that is, you create a shadow state where parliament is no longer the hub of decision making. The decisions are now taken in Saxonwold by the Guptas. Number 2, you repurpose the more than 734 state-owned enterprises and state-owned companies. 3, you get rid of the good people who know what they're doing. You replace them with people whose only claim to fame is that they know somebody who knows somebody who knows the minister. So there are a lot of black people here who know how to run companies. But you know what? We don't want them. We want people like Vusimuzi Ketmatla, who, after being called out by name in the murder of Babita Diokaran 4 years ago in Tembisa, one hospital, after he's been called out by name, the South African Police Service decides to give him a tender for 360 million. Now you understand why. Because Sibeya was getting $1 million a month, every month, in black Woolworths bags. Try to withdraw R1 million of your own money in a bank and see whether the banks will allow you. They'll ask you for your grandmother's certificate and how your grandmother was toilet trained. But bona ba yetsa every month. Go bontsha hore ha ba re lawyer, re a utswa. The second one is to complete the unfinished work of transformation, even though it's less fashionable to talk about it, because the intent of transformation is to ensure that this economy is broadly reflective of the demography. This economy must look like us. If it doesn't, these Africans will ban the only library that services the 2 adjacent towns. Demographics. There's 65 million of us. 52.5% of them are women. It's people who don't look like me. And yet women's representation in positions of leadership is less than 24%. African women, less than 4%. Let me digress for the last time. So we inherited from apartheid more than 734 state-owned enterprises. 28 of them are bigger than economies of some African countries. Had we put African women to be MDs, CEOs, and presidents of just these more than 734 SOEs and SOEs that we inherited from National Party, with 20% of them failing, and you left them alone without political interference just for 5 years, today we'll be having 3,500 women who know how to run complex entities, so that when Kenya Airways is looking for an MD, they look south at this 90-year-old award-winning African airline that used to have 123 Boeing 747-400s. 2 of them were called SPs because they've got a shorter fuselage, so they couldn't fly over Africa. They had to fly around the batch. But no, that's not what we're looking for. The third, we want people who are ethical leaders, because ethics are both prescribed and proscribe. My grandmother says, ethics is what you do not say when nobody's watching. The fourth is good governance, the old-fashioned good governance. The lawyers will tell you that cooperative governance is a separation of ownership from control. But good governance does not steal from the mouths of the babies, the sick and the dying, like we witnessed during COVID-19, this once in 100-year event. Rutswa la batho ba se ba hlokang. Ra cheka mabitla, a million of them, because somebody got a tent. Up until today, we haven't filled those graves. The penultimate one is service delivery, because that's the job description of anybody that chooses to be a public servant. The definition is in the name. If I said to you, public protector, it's very clear who the protector is protecting, the public. So when you choose to be a public servant, you forego the Bentley. And Toyota Yaris is good for you because you chose to serve the public. Because the best amongst us lead with the heart of a servant. Public servant leadership. It's not a leader with many servants. The last one is law and order, safety and security. Because South Africans are not safe walking on the streets, because I can almost understand they're exposed. But South Africans are not safe in their homes, their sanctuary. Because it's the contact crimes that are increasing. Allow me, before I shut up and take some questions and comments or be part of the panel, to close a little bit on a philosophical note to understand the significance of events like the budget, that if we used it wisely, there is no reason why every single solitary one of us is still poor and barefoot. I read, like Tate Khomeswana, the African Writers series, one of my favorite writers, Udiswa Chinua Achebe. His second book is Things Fall Apart. He gave us this notion of turning around the guy at the center cannot hold. Things fall apart. He says, he is a fool, he who treats a stranger better than his own brother. He goes on to say, when brothers fight to the death, a stranger will inherit your father's estate. He says, a brother that has made a mistake needs to be saved, not blamed. It was the ANC very first president to be the Nobel Peace Prize laureate. You know, we're the only country in the world that has 4 Nobel Peace Prize laureates. 2 of them live in the same street in Vilagaz, in Soweto. He says, you don't want even your fiercest enemy at the weakest to exclude you as part of the solution. Gabriel Robert Mugabe of ZAPU says something that came very late in my life, is that it is possible for a country to attain its political liberation without its people being free. Our grandmothers warned us that if we don't look after this freedom very well, the colonizer, oppressor, and racist will come back as an investor. They'll give themselves sexy names like the market. Because a country that makes English compulsory and agriculture optional can only produce citizens that speak English fluently on an empty stomach. If this is your land, where are your stories? Because if you don't tell your children your stories, they will tell the stories of Santa Claus and Valentine. This is a place of institutions of higher learning. We call chancellors, because we are trying to even change the shape, the color of this institution, so that we can achieve 1 or 2 things, so that we can say we brought about this notion of an inclusive academic excellence. That we brought a social justice approach in the assessment of this thing called merit. That we brought a contextualized academic freedom. Because where I work, my driver, Kintate Mazamba, he's my uncle. Because of the way I was brought up, even though I pay him, I could never bellow instructions to him. I always ask him to say, because he's my father first and foremost. We want to create ethical frameworks, because it's bad enough that the Vice Chancellor of the University of Fort Hare, that has given us 5 African presidents, is walking around, not with 1 bodyguard, but with 6 bodyguards. And then lastly, we want to find a long-lasting solution through a funding model. Because 2022, the CSIR does a piece of work, and it says there's 1.2 million students in the 26 public universities. I leave out the TVET colleges for now, who collectively, if you were to educate them on a fee-free basis, would cost us 50 billion South African rands to educate them. If we looked at only those that qualify, combined household income of 350,000 rands per annum, it would cost us 20 billion. But they say there's a smaller problem. It's called Historical Debt Fund, which in 2022 was 16.5 billion, 9.2 billion of which is irrecoverable. That same year, 100,000 young women and men completed their studies but couldn't graduate because they owed these institutions a piece of money, swelling the ranks of the unemployment. How do we ensure that they regain their self-respect and their self-worth? Because when one steadily burns the midnight oil, one gains access to the domain of knowledge and wisdom, the world of meaning, the world that cannot be conquered without the persistent crusade. Haki se trompo, kubohle, bao, e ba tshwanetse, ke be ke kopela tshwarelo, ka gore ka nnete ke ile ka selwa, ya ba ke tla lata. Le ntshwarela haholo ka nnete, hloina, khaebana ho ile yaka, ga o tona mpa diqhashaletse, ke khotse moroko, ko tlile ka le mo lefatshe. Fela tjhe, bitso la ka ke Bonang Mohale, ke Mokwena Mokotedi, ke Mokgoditswana o moholo, sekgwasha ka mpafatse. Kwena jarile lehlabathe ka mokokotlo, o thwe ya sesa kwena, ya nyoloha madiba, thala modiba ya ithatika ka lebopo, ya raha leqhamu ha tsekela, ya qethwa ra ba ra bona mala o mosweu mpeng tsa makwala a tetema, ya lelala sheba hodimo ra ba ra bona hodimo mahanane gona mo dulang teng morela le mmina. Ke gagaulane molamo a tshepe, ke le rua la morampokane nna ke bone ke banana, ke bona ke ditsa digolo fela. Ke mphatlalatsa nna le dia meso, re bone ka yona gore masiwa sesedi. Ke gegedi yang gege se getha mageta, se gethe batho bana ke ba ntatao ba gale, bile ke gala ba go tsekisa gore ke lendesa la mametsi matswana, la mametsi madididi, metsi a ka thewa thabeng a etsa diphororo, basadi ba sala ba o tla koma ka hlogo. Ke for peace, ga o la dithuta re bone o itsisa mmao le ntatao mohlango le mohlatsa le leholo, mohlango o phala diswa ba le ithuteng tsa modi di batao le Mohale a mata o a lelala o tsepasela shebile hodimo a yo kena o baholo ba hae baholo monti le morinyana motso o senang bonang wa hlora. Ke le ranthane la nthithi ya banana ba le pumme ba lahlafatse ba re le sa le tshikisa Mokwena na o tshika wa tshika Mokwena o mpasitse wa kwa gamla tshika jwalo ka mankukune tse tshajwang haholo ke banana ba ntse ba mpotsa gafetse Bonang o haile kae ha e so bule sebakanya a se bohula ba o pala mapere le ba ba o tobantse ba fihla ho dikoting ka ba ke le bontshe nka kgathala kwa gamla le godimo ho ja ba ngodiswang ka ba ke romela ditlhareteng ke di mo le ngwana mme a ntse a nkula ke majantja madimo a ja batho Mohale o halefetseng ha kana ha ilale it's when twake ya madula mmoho le rona mapala re none ya kae baneng ntateng ka khelle molangwana kotsana ke bapise le tsebe ke tlola ke thintetse ke ipinele difeile hobane tlala e sitwa e nya go mo hanye boloko kaofela ya kgaula ya